Hello, hello, grand day, everybody. Wishing you all a beautiful and blessed day. And thank you to all of you that will be tapping in to this live or the replay later on in a different time and space. I am Marcus Christolight of Sacred Light Healing and Wellness. And yesterday I gave a very basic and fundamental understanding of the mechanics and how Shungite, the stone itself, brings benefits as well as different properties to our human life. Along with that, I went through the different health benefits as well as the different things that it can do within your water system at home. And then I also gave us a step-by-step basic demonstration of how you can create Shungite water at home as well. So today we are doing part 2 of Shungite Water 101, and I have the pleasure of having a sacred and wonderful guest. He is a good brother that has connected for about a year and a half, 2 years now, and we've done many different things live, such as Qigong, as well as talk about his at-home water system that he has created, and it is called MagnaViolet Radionix. It is a living water, structured water system that he has authentically came up with himself. And he is here today to share with us the information as well as some other deeper knowledge about Shungite and Shungite water for you guys at home, so you guys may have even more knowledge and wisdom for your at-home water system as well. So I'll go ahead and bring on our special guest, and it is Yuuga, the Draconic High Priest, and he also goes by Voice of the Dragons on YouTube, as well as Hytherion on Instagram.
Hello, Grand Raven.
Welcome, brother. How are you today?
Doing well. Very excited.
Good to see you, man. Glad that you're here, and you're here to share your wisdom with us.
Yes.
So I know it's been a few years for you, at least, with your journey with Shungite and your at-home water system. And I'm just going to go ahead and hand it over to you and allow you to go ahead and take over and share your wisdom with us.
All right. I'll start from the beginning. I won't get too lengthy with my story, but I started with Shungite 7 years ago. I didn't know too much about how to do anything really with Shungite other than I knew it was good for water. And after much error and trial and error, it took some time to develop a system, but I've been 5 years into research of working with Shungite water and working with structured water. There's a slight difference between the two, but you can use Shungite water to make structured water. That is for sure. I'll just go over the very basics of what Shungite is. And Shungite is a very special stone that comes from Russia. It's not even really a stone, or a mineral. It's just fossilized carbon. But this fossilized carbon is some of the oldest material on the earth. I can't remember the exact date at this moment, but I believe it's between 2 and 3 billion years old. So it's pretty old. And it comes out of Karelia, Russia. And it was found along along the lake of Karelia. And they noticed over time that people would be able to drink out of the lake without having to do anything to it. And they figured out that the Shungite had this natural property of making the water pristine and drinkable. And so the Russians have been working with Shungite for many, many years. And it wasn't until more recently that it's been, how do I say this? It's been open to the world, I guess, because they kind of withheld it for themselves. I don't know if this is true, but someone told me that deals with Shungite that the Russian army actually was making Shungite water for their troops. But the benefits of Shungite water are a huge plethora. When done right and done correctly, it has antioxidants and a lot of health benefits. It can detox you. It's also used in a lot of treatment and therapy. It helps with just so many things. And there are a few people that I've had take it long term for their health. I had some family members that go through some intense surgeries, and I had them try my water, and they felt more hydrated. They didn't need as long of a recovery time, and just they felt better. And that's the one thing I've noticed with this water is it has a very unique taste and distinguished texture to it. And there's a huge difference as to how your body reacts to the Shungite water versus just regular bulk water, or just standard drinking water. So that's the one thing I've noticed, and that's the one thing that's really driven my passion for Shungite water is just seeing how you could take just about any water source and treat it with the Shungite and make something of value, something that I would consider the elixir and the fountain of youth. You have anything you want to input, Marcus? Or do you want me to continue?
You're going to be touching on what structured water is and everything, right?
Yeah, I can touch on that. It's a little bit different than Shungite water, but it definitely, they mold into one another, or they merge into one another. Structured water is a new form of water. There's an ancient water that's coming back into surface, but structured water is a new form of water that is being documented in research. That's one of the things that I've been doing, is researching structured water. I have some in the freezer that I could show later on throughout the live, but using Shungite water to create structured water is one of the things that was kind of the aha moments for me. Personally, I didn't know there was a thing as structured water until I started working with Shungite water, but I didn't come across that information, and there was a personal gnosis that happened with the making of the structured water. And I had this idea with the conductivity of the Shungite because of the fullerenes that are in the carbon structure of the Shungite. I had this idea of putting neodymium magnets near the water system that I was working with at the time. And I was doing a freeze test, and like I said, I have a freeze test I can show you guys, but what I was looking for was just clear crystal, clean ice. And I kept getting these lines and waves in the water, and the longer the water sat next to the magnets, the more intense the lines got. And then I noticed that, okay, this isn't what I wanted, but this is something that's very interesting. And that's where the radionics comes from. What I found out was that what I was working with was what is called radionics, electromagnetic therapy. Because when you work with a magnet and you place it around a conductor or a semiconductor or a conductor or even a superconductor, that creates electromagnetism. And that's what Shungite does, and that's what I do. And that's what it is. It's just been a snowballing effect of one thing leading into another, and it's always been connected through my passion with working with crystals. So that's the big thing, is what makes my water system so unique is that it's all driven by the power of magnetism and raw crystalline energy. And so I figured out how to properly use the power of Shungite through the various protocols and methods, and I have this all documented on my Instagram and on my YouTube, of me just going through the details of how intense and how careful you need to be when working with Shungite, because you're taking something straight from the earth and putting it into your water. You have to take a lot of precautions. Shungite, there's many different classifications for what Shungite can be considered. But the main thing is that there's 3 tiers that you need to be concerned with. There's it's the first tier would be elite noble Shungite, then there's rock Shungite, and then there's type 3, and it's all based on how much carbon is available in the material that you have in your hands. So working with elite Shungite is the hands down best for working with water. Just it makes things a lot less complicated. You can use type 2, but it will cause problems down the road if you're working with a lot of material. But the ratio that I found works best for working with elite Shungite and making a decent amount of water is using 1 gram of Shungite for every 10 grams of water. So if you're wanting to make a cup, then you won't need too much Shungite. But if you're wanting something like, where's my camera? Everything's backwards for me. Everything's backwards. Sorry. Like that. There we go. Like this. That's 2.5
You can actually mirror your camera.
Oh, you can?
You can mirror your camera if you want. Yeah,
okay, it's just
settings.
I was confused. It's a different angle than what I'm used to versus what I stream with on other platforms. But It's right there. That's 2.5 gallons. I'll show you the ins and out in a little bit, but I just want to get the information out of what it takes to make it. So if you're making something like that, it takes a lot of shungite, roughly 2.5 pounds of shungite that I had to hand pick and process. But if you're wanting to make something just for on the go and quick and to do something overnight, just keep in mind that you want to charge your water for at least 6 hours with the shungite. And the cleaner the water you're working with, the better and the more pristine the results will be. You don't necessarily need to freeze it to get the desired results, but if you're curious about how the nature of water and the mysteries of water will unfold, then I would recommend freezing your water before and after, doing a control and doing the experiment. There's many ways to test shungite with its authenticity. One way to test it is, let's just say this is the flashlight. You have a piece, we'll say this is shungite. So here's the battery, or here's the flashlight, here's the battery. You can connect the circuit of the shungite through the battery, and that will turn the flashlight on. I don't have either or at the moment, but that's one way to verify that shungite can connect a circuit. That's how you can verify it's real, but also just make sure you're dealing with someone that knows what they're talking about and knows that they have authentic material. One thing that's been placed on the market recently, and one thing I was kind of misled about, was what's known as Colombian shungite. It's an ancient carbon, but it's not the same thing as the Russian shungite. And I tried making water with it, and I don't feel safe working with it personally. It's just there's too many variables and there's too many unknowns with working with a material like something straight out of the earth. So that's the main thing, is just knowing what you're working with and where it's coming from, and knowing that there is a process that has to be done to treat the material you're working with so it can be used properly. You don't want to just take it out of the bag and put it in water. There's various methods that I've talked about in my videos. Just you want to clean it, you want to wash it, rinse it, boil it, and then weigh it out, charge it in the sun basically, and then you can work with it in the water. But I think I'll leave it at that for now, and I'll let my mind refresh if Marcus wants to say anything.
Yeah, just excellent points, and thank you for sharing all that stuff, because you're right. It's not something that you just want to receive and then just put straight into your drinking water and then fill it up and then start drinking it, because even though it's coming from the earth, and even though the earth has beneficial things for us, there's still things that are part of the earth that are toxic and poisonous to our body. So you just want to make sure, out of conscious awareness and safety, not out of fear, that we're taking the correct procedures to help cleanse out and make sure we're purifying the stones before we put it in our drinking water. Because if there's like little tiny bacterias and contaminants and other things like toxins from the earth that are leaching into that drinking water, and then we're taking that in, that could give us an illness, that can create other things within our body that we don't want to have. So very simple way, very simple steps to cleansing the stones. I actually showed you guys in the first part of this yesterday on the live, and you guys can watch the first episode on the YouTube channel, Sacred Light Healing and Wellness, and you guys can actually watch it on my Facebook as well as on the Instagram. But yeah, I definitely want to make sure that you're boiling it and then rinsing it, allowing it to charge and connect with the sun rays, and then work with it from there. And what I like to do also, since I'm a Reiki practitioner, is when I'm straining it and I'm rinsing it with the cool water, I like to kind of use my hands and kind of move it around, put some intentional Reiki energy into it to help infuse and charge the stones as well. And I want to ask you, for everybody out there, so they can learn a little bit about, your journey and your connection with this beautiful stone. What kind of led you to the Shungite stone, and what was your life like, and how did it change when you came in contact with this? Because I know from past and from personal experience with you that you actually had a very profound spiritual experience when it came to this.
Yeah, so when I first started working with Shungite and when I first came across it, things were decent in my life personally, but I didn't get too serious into the journey with the Shungite water until about 2 years after I got first exposed into it. So there was a little bit of a transitional period, and that was me preparing for what was to come. I personally feel like me being introduced to the ancient crystal skull, Sammy, the fifth crystal skull, was part of the pivotal point in my journey for me to get the information to make the water with the Shungite. Um, but when I first found out about Shungite and I was working with it at home, it was the type 2 rock Shungite, and it was, like I said, I didn't have any information about what to do or how to work with it other than this works for water. And I literally had to build my own system and process from the ground up because I wanted to be as accurate with my work as possible. I didn't want to poison myself. I didn't want to hurt anyone. And I wanted to do something long term that I didn't have to worry about. So that's why I invested so much of my own time and energy into making something so outstanding, and that's the best way I can explain it. Overall, I want to say it probably took me closer to $2,500 to do the proper research and build the proper system. I've built 2 systems in my time with working with Shungite. I called the first one just type 1 or prototype, and the second one is Radionix MagnaViolet 2.0, and that's right there. So right here, I'll be sharing that in just a few more minutes. But working with Shungite and the transition that happened with me, like I said, it all goes back to my interaction with meeting the fifth crystal skull. After that, my life kind of went in shambles. I finally had the resources to start making Shungite water on a large scale, and I was making about a gallon at a time. But it just took a lot of effort, like I said, and it took a lot of patience. And that's the main thing, is the patience. I cannot tell you how much it stressed me as not being a very patient person to have to wait for the water and test it. And if it didn't come out right, then I have to throw it all away and start over again. And it really tested me. And the one thing about it was a purification of my own self. And that's why this water can heal you, is because it's very purifying, not just mentally with the strenuous efforts that it takes to make it, but when you actually have achieved that status of pristine drinking water, then the magic actually starts to happen. And that's the crazy thing about the detox. Going back and watching my detox videos before the live, it definitely pulls out a lot of stuff out of you when you're first drinking it and you're drinking it consistently. It makes you pee a lot. That's not a joke. It really does. And it makes you feel more mentally clear. I was able to do things with my kundalini and my chi that I didn't think I was fully capable of doing at the time. And having that extra boost of just pristine energy going through the water into me directly, I felt like I was on the next level, and I was tapping into DNA activation on a tangible source, and using the radionics treatment to make it into the water, just giving yourself a fluid and more dynamic, versatile way of hydrating yourself. There's really nothing like it, especially when you do it yourself and you know exactly what you're putting into your water and what's going out. And that's one thing I need to say, is that's one thing that is attributed with the Shungite water, is it can have magnesium, potassium, and calcium, traces of calcium in the water. So that's one thing that makes it very beneficial. But I think at this point I can go ahead and switch the camera over and show you guys the setup. So let's do that.
And before you show the setup, I know there's another precaution as well, and that has to do with rust. What's your take on rust when it comes to that?
The rust, I'll show you guys as best as I can. So there's lots of rust that comes in the Shungite. If this gets any brighter. No, it's not gonna work. So I'll just show you on a bigger piece that I have right here. So as you can see, this is super rusty. On the smaller pieces, you'll see the rust build up on the outside. Just avoid working with that piece altogether because the rust will vein into the crystal all throughout. And that's what happened with this piece. It didn't look like this originally, but I got wet and it turned into something like this. And if you work with something like this, it will poison you 100%. But also, how you know it will poison you is it will leave a foul odor in the water, and it'll kind of smell like, not toilet water, like hard mineral water or sewage water. But this is generally the idea of the setup, and I'm kind of piggybacking off another setup. But this is what is known as a zero water brand. I work with this brand because it's the most consistent with the water quality that comes out. But honestly, if you're wanting to do something like this, work with reverse osmosis water or work with distilled water preferably, because that's what it makes it easier on the shungite to filter. The less that it has to filter, the more it can actually heal the water. So that's the one thing to keep in mind. But this is, like I said, 2.5 gallons. It's a little low on the water, but this is about 2.5 pounds of shungite. So it takes a lot to make a lot, but it's worth it in the end. But I have all these other things that add life and energy into the water, like these organite dragons. These were made by my friend, Alchemy of Spirit, and these are, like I said, organite. So these aren't just decorative, these actually create healing effects in the water. Then I've got tensor tools, other meteorites, and a bunch of magnets all throughout. Then around I've got shungite and selenite, and these are actually quartz strands with other hematite magnets. And I'll go ahead and show you guys what's popping up in the freezer. But here's the back side, just so you get a good view what it is and what it looks like. But don't look at the dirty dishes. Sorry you saw that. Anyways, this is what the structured water looks like. Let me turn the light on so you get a better view. So you can clearly see this is not like anything that you get in your own store. You get all these waves of energy, all these intricate patterns and mirrors. All these mirrors are actually frozen oxygen bubbles that got trapped by the energy of the structured water and created all these displays of energy. And it took a lot to make it look like this. This isn't something that I just happened to have. Like when I first started getting it, it just started as a little wave in some cloudy water. And I had to work up to build it to this. So this is what I call stage 3 radionics. If there's any rainbows in here, it'd be stage 4. But just the level of energy, the structure, and the other physical attributes that are really hard to capture on camera. One thing that I have been trying to figure out is if it is part of structured water is the top right here. If, as you see, it doesn't dome a whole lot, but there is a slight bit of doming. If it doesn't dome, I believe that is a sign of structured water, but that's just a theory that I'm working on. Switch the camera back over. There we go. Is it working? There we go. Okay. I'm back. But that's what the structured water looks like. That's what I believe it should look like. But that's the setup right here. And here I am.
Thank you for showing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I meant to show it last time we went on live and talked about the water, but I just was at my mom's house and just didn't align. But that's the one thing I should have mentioned earlier. And we did kind of talk about it with the rust. The rust is not good. It's definitely not good, and it does create an odor in the water. It's usually a sign of iron oxide or titanium dioxide or even something else. I can't remember what it's called. But you do have to be careful with finding pieces of pyrite in your water, because if you get the pyrite, or not in the water, in the shungite, if you get the pyrite in your shungite, then that actually has arsenic, and you don't want arsenic in your water.
For sure. And Sarah Broadhead has a question. It's actually what I was going to actually bring up is that's awesome. Have either of you also added other crystals for certain purposes, such as amethyst or rose quartz?
Yes, actually, what's in the setup, and I don't really bring it up because it's just hard to see, and it's kind of just my little trade secret and my little bonus if anyone gets to try my water. But I actually have like 8 grams of moldavite and a 13 gram piece of Libyan desert glass in there, hidden in all the shungite. And
Moldavite.
I can't tell you what it does independently by itself, but adding it to the shungite water, I feel it does make a difference. Um, you have to be very, very careful about which stones you want to try other things with water with if you're going to do the direct exposure. But one thing I have noticed is crystals with high crystalline structure and crystals that bear iron or iron-bearing minerals work really well with structuring water if you want to do the external method.
Yeah. So, yeah, you definitely want to be careful. Everybody out there, you definitely want to be careful with what kind of crystals you're going to place in the water, because certain ones will either leach things, or you can actually just completely destroy the crystal in itself, as
Yeah,
not every
or
crystal is in water, such as selenite. You put selenite in water, it's going to start breaking it down, it's going to start dissolving the selenite, and then you're going to get like these little tiny flakes and chips of the selenite in your water, and you'll be drinking that, which you probably don't want to do. So you can always just go on Google, very simple, just type in what crystals are not good in water and what crystals are good in water, and Google has all the answers for you. That's great though. Moldavite, like, wow. Because I know moldavite.
Way before the surge happened, I got a bunch of pieces specifically to put in the water, and I did. They're in there still. They've been in there for years.
That's awesome. Moldavite's one of my favorite stones, actually. It has a very awesome balancing energy of kind of like extraterrestrial meteorite energy, and then it also has that balance of the earth heart chakra energy. So it's a really, really awesome one to be able to insert into your water. I didn't even think about that. I can't believe I didn't think about moldavite. That's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of people they swear by putting moldavite with shungite and Herkimer diamonds in their water.
Yep. Jeremy Felder, local here in Columbus, Ohio. He's a sound healer, and he's a very good brother of mine in the community. He does donation-based sound baths in Columbus on Tuesdays and some other things as well. He said, I've worn an inch chunk of moldavite around my neck for most of a year and a half. It is by far the most powerful experience. Oh yeah, it's powerful, man. Some people can't even withstand the vibration of it, and they can't even wear it because of how potent it is.
This isn't moldavite, but it's Libyan desert glass. I got it personally made not too long ago.
There we go.
And it's got a ruby on top. I'm all about the space stones and the tektites.
Yeah. Yeah, the tektites, man. Tektites are very awesome to connect with. They're all extraterrestrial, like meteorite energy.
There is some speculation as to how Shungite was formed. They want to say because of the fullerene, there was some extraterrestrial influence, and by that I mean like an asteroid, or not like actual aliens, but there was some type of outer influence that happened or helped the formation of the Shungite, because it's only in the one location in the world. There's other deposits of ink and carbon, but there's nothing like Shungite.
Yeah, I did see something where they had a theory that it was from a meteorite or something like that.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've traced it back billions of years, not millions, but billions of years. It's very interesting.
There's not much older than Shungite.
Then Sarah also said, I think his dilemma is from air touching the water as it freezes, maybe. Does that make a difference?
In regards to what?
Now, what is that question geared towards? What dilemma? I think his dilemma is from air touching the water as it freezes. Yeah, if you could clarify that, Sarah, we'll definitely answer the best we can. And then, yeah, she's had it on for about half a year as well, Moldavite. Yeah, I love Moldavite. I had a buddy of mine. He went all in on Moldavite, like bracelets with chunks all over it on both
wow.
hands. He had a whole entire, like, one of those, like, chunk necklaces.
I've seen a few of those back in the day.
He had the rings too, and he was wearing all of them one day when we were hiking in Yellow Springs here in Ohio, and he had all of it on. And I was just like, "Dang, man, you are."
He saw it, but I have
way up
the ring here.
Here, let me put you on the full screen.
Right there, that's my Moldavite ring. I got it at a pawn shop many years ago for like $5. And what was interesting, I got it resized, and I definitely won't be able to show it on camera, but on the inside, it's imprinted Starborn, and it's actually a major company out in Sedona that deals with star stones and other things. And long story short, I'm not who made it, obviously, but it's really cool to find things like that happen on your journey. That's one thing I wanted to talk about really quick. Was I actually have my own line of jewelry that I call Radionix bracelets. This is one example. And I use Shungite and neodymium magnets with some copper and other crystals, and I use that as a form of radionics, and it all works because of Shungite. Shungite works physically as well as externally and internally. That's just one of the things I've noticed and worked with, and that's one thing I want to start working on, is making kind of like powwow with my system. Sorry, I'm all backwards. How it has the rings of the magnets and the quartz. I want to make stuff like that, but for other people to put on their own water systems if they don't want to put Shungite in their water, or they don't have the funds to do so, but just like make, I don't know what to call it yet, but just a bead string of magnets and crystals for people to structure their water with. That'll be coming in the future.
That's awesome right there. And yeah, I actually have a bracelet. Actually grab it. I have one of your bracelets that you custom made for me. And Jeremy said, thank you for the idea to include Moldavite as a energetic additive. I distill my Berkey water, and then we use the BEMER PMF system on it. It transforms so much in all walks of life. Are you familiar with that system?
Yeah, the Berkey, it's highly regarded, but it's highly also controversial for its price and for its inability to properly treat water. But the fact that he's distilling it on top of filtering it, that's really, really good. That's ideal. That's what I want to do. I need to get myself my own water distiller, so I don't have to worry about too much more about the water that I'm treating, because it gets expensive. But I don't know the PEMF system he's using, but I do know what PEMF is, so he's doing the right things for his water.
Awesome. And yeah, Jeremy, if you ever want to talk about your water system or share it for the collective, feel free to reach out, and we can hold a space for you to share. And this is the bracelet that I have from Yuuga. I'll put it on the full screen. And it's got beautiful clear citrine, not the yellowish orange, but clear. And then it also has, what was it? Seraphinite?
Yep.
And then tourmaline?
Yep. Tourmaline.
Yep. So it's got citrine, clear citrine, black tourmaline, and then seraphonite. And the intention and usage of this bracelet was for the balance of creativity, grounding and protection, and love. And you guys can get custom-made bracelets from our brother Yuuga here, as he puts his love and his dedication into his products.
Yes, I do.
So Sarah clarified her question. She was saying regarding the layer on the tip that you had mentioned.
On the
I guess
D-Star?
on the test, when you brought it out, I guess you may have said something about the tips of it.
No, not the tips. I know she's talking about how when I was first doing the freeze test, I was getting those lines of energy. That was a side effect of me working with the magnets and the shungite. And then it did, like, if you go back to my highlights on my Instagram page and you look at the very beginning of my structured water and you compare it to my most recent structured water test, it's night and day. That's why I believe there's different tiers of radionics and there's different forms of structured water. There's also different things and different like reoccurring patterns and themes inside the water, and it like reconfigures itself into certain things. But as far as what was Sarah was saying, that was a good mistake that I made. That's what led me on to this path of structured water.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that, Sarah, so we could answer that correctly for you. And I actually went ahead and pulled up your Instagram, so people can get a look at what your Instagram looks like and how to find this stuff. So I believe this is your most recent freeze test, probably up here in the top right.
That's one of them, yeah.
Or I put the Serona water in. It's got a unique cave feature I've never really actually seen, and I'll go ahead and make a dedicated video just for this finding. But as far as MagnaViolet and Radionix go, this is pretty good. It's just nothing super interesting. We did get the doming here at the top, which was what we were looking for, but not wanting. Now, here is a good stage 3 Radionix shockwave pattern, which is ideal for stage 3. And the doming is kind of there, but it's not nearly as pronounced as the other cup. So that's just one of the observations I have. But at a closer look, you can see some sea urchining. But
and then, is there any specific videos on your grid that you would like to pull up?
They're on my highlights. I don't know if you could see the highlights through the browser.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have it labeled.
Which
there's
one?
2024, 2023. If you want the full scope of everything I've done, go to the one with MVCRX. This is 22, I think. It's hard to see, but the one to the second right.
This one?
And then I kind of, yeah, that one. You can scroll through and it kind of shows the evolution of MagnaViolet. There we go. That's more what it was looking like when I first got it. And then it's just kind of a documentation of my observations. Oh, that's one thing you should also have if you're testing your water with Shungite is a TDS meter. That's the one thing I was holding earlier. It's this tool. It just tells you how much stuff is in your water. It doesn't tell you what's in the water, but having at least water under 50 TDS or ppm is ideal for working with Shungite.
So yeah, you guys get the idea. You guys can check out his Instagram anytime to be able to look through his highlights and throughout his page to see these tests and these wonderful efforts that he's put to be able to make this a very transparent and vulnerable journey for the collective. Thank you for doing that. Not everybody takes the time to do testing, show the results, and really give people that full, clear picture of what this can be like and how it does shift and change our water.
Honestly, putting myself to the highest standard I'm capable of holding myself to has really just kind of pushed me to do better and be better. And I feel like the water is allowing me to be that faceted version of myself that I really envisioned for myself to be for the vessel, for the transition for the water, honestly. Because it's a transition, it's an alchemy, and it's an untouched skill to be able to transform water into something that's living.
Didn't your name come to you as a connection to water as well?
Not directly, but there is a connection. I was given the name Yuuga by the Buddha, and one of the translations of the word Yuuga in Japanese is tender river.
Makes sense. That's for sure.
So that's the thing that's where you were touching upon. So there's tender river, and then there's the word elegant, and it kind of stands for refinement. But the best translation for the word Yuuga is a refined state of perfection and or a state of perfection and constant refinement. That's the proper way to say it. But it's that refinement, the constant attunement that the water has helped me achieve, and I've embodied myself through water. It's been very powerful and transformative.
Thank you for sharing that. And I do have another question too. So how long do you use your Shungite for?
Indefinitely. I forgot to mention that earlier. That's why I invested it the way I did and with how much that I did, is because Shungite doesn't go bad. It's been around for billions of years, and it will be here for billions more if it's treated well. So that's why it's so important to have good Shungite to use for your water, because it's never going to go bad. It's not going to dissolve in the water. It's just going to be there, vibing and chilling.
Yeah. And then you guys can just periodically, once a month or so, just take it out, set it in the sun for 3 to 4 hours, and it'll charge back up.
Yeah, sun charging is definitely essential to how the Shungite can filter the water. But that's why I have the setup I have, is because it doesn't have anything in the water. It's like distilled water, but a little different. So it's just water on Shungite, which is why my water tastes so good.
Yeah, dude, taste is no lie. Shungite water has a very mineral dense taste, and it is really amazing. It really makes you enjoy the water a lot more.
It's got a sweet taste to it. I don't know how to describe it. It's like sweet and silky.
Yep. And what else was I gonna say? It'll come back to me. That's weird. I literally just had it and it's gone.
That happens.
But blanking out. Oh yes, that's right. Okay. So there's a lot of people, and it's a very mainstream trend these days. A lot of people like buying these machines and Kangen machines and stuff like that. Where do you see Kangen water equating when it comes to Shungite water?
I actually just got not connected. I don't know how to say this. I found this dude on TikTok, and he actually does research on water and gets lab reports tested on every source of water possible. Every system that distributes water, he will find the lab report if he doesn't get it done himself. And it's pretty impressive the database he has on all the pollutants that are actually in water and the microplastics and stuff. So that's the one thing I found out recently is my system is actually not as good as I thought it to be. So the brand Zero Water, I just dropped something. Oh wow. Uh, this brand, it only removes like 36% of common contaminants, which is why I need to get myself a water distiller, because then I know there's no contaminants going in the water and it's just more of a sanitation precautionary thing. But as far as the Kangen water, it does have healing effects, but it doesn't filter anything. So unless you're putting good water in, nothing of value is coming out. So that's basically what I have to say about Kangen. I do believe that it can work, but if you're gonna spend $5,000 on a water machine, you can do other things with $5,000 for a lot less, or for a lot more effective purchasing power.
Yeah, and I heavily agree. And you know, it's nothing against Kangen water. Like, yeah, it can have some healing benefits due to the structuring of it and everything. And I mean, I know for my own self, like I have a friend that has a testimony of how she was able to clear her ulcers in her stomach and stuff by drinking just the Kangen water. But I look at it this way, you know, I look at things in a multidimensional perspective. I don't just look at things as just the physical. I look at things also on the spiritual and metaphysical side as well. And you know, when you think about your water is a consciousness, it's living. And you know, we have options of how we can filter it and do these things. So when you think about using something that is a artificial machine as your filter for the water, yeah, there's no right or wrong to that. It could have benefits. But then on the contrast, if you're using something that is a natural compound of the earth and it has its own organic blueprint and living consciousness to it, and then you're adding that to the water, you're getting to add that spiritual energy and that living consciousness through the stones into that water as well. And then you can also interact and spiritually connect with the Shungite in itself, and you have that infused with your water. And I also want to say too, due to Shungite's EMF protection abilities, it's also helpful for clearing out radiation inside the body too. So those are things to consider, you know, when you're going to invest into this. And you know, like Yuuga was saying, you know, some of these machines are literally thousands of dollars, like thousands and thousands of dollars. And if you can get something that's more organic, more full of conscious life, something that's more affordable for the pocket, something that's more longer lasting, and something that you're able to fully connect and interact with your authentic energy, place your intentions and affirmations and program, for me, that's the way to go. I'm all about that organic pathway and eliminating as much artificial energies and artificial things as I can when it comes to what I'm consuming. But that's just me. To each their own.
I agree. I agree.
And also too, with reverse osmosis, you know, this is a fact about reverse osmosis is, yes, it is good for cleansing the water, but it also does not allow minerals to be present in that water after the reverse osmosis. So in essence, it almost becomes like dead water in a way. The reverse osmosis doesn't bring structure to where it's going to be living water. So if we're just using reverse osmosis as our everyday water, there's actually some scientific facts behind that. It's actually kind of dehydrating for the body because there's no real minerals that's being received. and the body has to try to do extra work to try to process that water. So just things to think about when you invest into your water system. Well, brother man, do you have anything else that you want to share before we hop off of here?
I think we're at a good point where we can just close it here.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And for everybody out there, this was part 2 of the Shungite Water 101 series. And you guys can watch part 1, and you guys can find it in my playlist on YouTube, as well as on Facebook and on Instagram. But on Instagram, it's probably not your best route for watching it. I'll probably go with the YouTube side just so you can watch it in a more easier way and just have your own flexibility of being able to move your screen, turn the screen off and all that stuff. But you guys can watch part 1, where I give you very basic fundamentals about Shungite, as well as how to step by step cleanse your stones and get it prepared. And then you can then rewatch this if you would like part 2, and you can learn some even more in-depth details through Yuuga, and also look at what it looks like through scientific testing of the structuring, and also his wonderful authentic way that he has made his home water system with the Radionix MagnaViolet. And you guys can also find Yuuga on YouTube, Voice of the Dragons, where he has more testing and other things on there as well. And then you guys can also follow him on Instagram under Hytherian. And I'll actually go ahead for just a moment. I'll go ahead and pull up the YouTube channel so you guys can get a look at it. And then as we close out, is there any other, any other things for them to be aware of, to be cautious of when it comes to this water system?
Just take all precautions necessary when working, and take all the sanitation skills that you have if you're going to be making your own water, because this is stuff that is going to be going in your body directly. Just make sure you're using something that you feel safe and confident in. Otherwise, you might end up in the hospital, because I've had people come to me and tell me their bad experiences with working with Shungite and having detrimental effects for not doing it properly.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this really quickly. If I have done anything wrong, I would have known by now. Because I live off of this stuff. I've been drinking it every day, nearly every day for the last 3 years now. This makes up 90% of what I drink a year. Yeah, it's literally.
And I agree. It's going on 5 years for me now. So it's like I've had 0 ailments. I've had 0 feelings of feeling disoriented or sick or anything like that from drinking this water all day, every day, and putting in everything I drink and consume. So, this stuff is definitely legit. It definitely does what it's made to be for. And really, this is just, working with organic Mother Earth or organic whatever it is from potentially a meteorite, and just working with its organic blueprint and organic nature of what it's meant to be and designed for. And it's a very pure and beautiful process. But for all of that, this is the YouTube channel, Voice of the Dragons. And you guys can check him out on YouTube. Feel free to get subscribe, follow him, keep up with some beautiful dragon energy videos, as well as his different testings with the water. Anything else that he has on there. And this is his Instagram, as I showed earlier. Hytherian. And then also, do you offer do you offer any of your qigong or card readings at the moment?
I'm always available from tarot. I need to train personally in the art form of Qigong before I feel confident enough to take on students. But if someone wants a relaxation session and just an attunement of self, then they can reach out and I'll be happy to set something up with them.
I know you've given me a very wonderful Kundalini activation. Is that something you offer as well?
Not at the moment, just because of the transition with the moving that I'm about to do. But once I get settled into my new place and get back into my practice, then I'll start bringing that back to the table.
Wonderful. Well, I'll definitely be supporting you, man, when you're ready. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, so that does it for part 2 of Shungite Water 101. Thank you to everybody on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube that's tapped in, and we'll be tapping in. And feel free to reach out if you have questions. Reach out to myself, reach out to Yuuga, and I'm sure we'll gladly give you the best answers we can to our capabilities. And thank you all for being you. Thank you for sharing this space and continuing to be on this journey with us. May you all have a beautiful and blessed day. Wholeness and balanced love.